Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome yet again to another exciting episode of this podcast where we hang out, myself, Steve, or Captain Steve, and
More Nyazungu, the chartered vendor.
yes, of course, and we hang out to give you information on whatever is happening in and around the business world, the business environment, latest updates, trending news, as well as other informative nuggets that we may deem necessary to share with you on this podcast. And if you're new to this podcast, then please like, subscribe, and share the link with your friends and family so that they can also partake of this information. But otherwise, if you are an old member and you're already subscribed, you can always interact with us in the comment section. Just let us know future topics that you'd like us to cover for your own viewing pleasure. So yes, what are we talking about today?
Today we want to talk about Africa. It's Africa Day.
Oh yes.
I think it started off as Organization of African Union.
Mm-hmm.
They later changed it into Africa Union. What was the difference?
I don't know, maybe they revamped, relaunching brand activation.
Probably they were saying they want to put energy. I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm not good with history, but if my memory serves me well, this was the brains of Kwame Nkrumah and Julius Nyerere. And I think that time Nyerere was saying, no, we should remove these borders, but Nkrumah said we should wait, let us first be South Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe. But us now on this podcast, I think we're mostly worried with the business side of course, where Africa is. Because right now as we speak, Africa is still where it is. Mm-hmm. I think we haven't developed even an inch from when we were given our independence. Mm-hmm. I think there was someone who was actually joking that if we knew that Africa, you only need independence for you to just enjoy the offices and everything, we're going to give you in 1963 or even before. But it seems we still remain where we were. We look at our vehicle, we don't even have do we even have a vehicle which is produced in Africa? Well, that's the question which we want to ask ourselves. Do we even have, even our phones, we're still over-relying on the European or the Asian countries. Mm-hmm. The batteries, our lithium, is being mined here in Africa. But the batteries are not being what? Made in China, made in Japan, made in Indonesia. Where are we? Where are we missing the point as Africans?
That's a very deep question, especially now that you're asking that question on a very important day, the Africa Day. There are a lot of people who are celebrating, and I'm sure media houses are now busy in the streets asking people what Africa Day means. You know? And there are very few people who really understand what Africa Day is, and they're going to give their opinions on what they think, how they feel about Africa Day. And most of it is going to have something to do with the pride of being an African, the creed of mankind. Yeah. That's what we know Africa is. But now, like you rightfully pointed, let's go back to the business side of Africa. How are we managing Africa? Do you know that we have Europe? They formed the European Union. It's very easy for you to navigate around Europe using one passport without you, even with your national ID, you can maneuver. But we have fragmented Africa into Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, Central Africa, and then you've got member states within those divisions. But up to now, it's only now when we started hearing waves about Botswana and Zimbabwe removing the passport for travel. But how long has SADC been in existence? But we never saw it necessary to remove the borders. You know, the reasons why the Europeans did it is because they understood the concept of being mobile, the ability to be mobile around the whole European Union region, so that there is ease of trade. You know, when Cecil Rhodes came to Africa, when he allegedly discovered Africa, you realize that he carried the same mentality that the Europeans have. He wanted to connect Cape
to
Cairo using railroad.
Exactly.
And it was going to pass through each and every country that is in Africa.
Exactly.
The reason why he was doing that, because he was seeing an opportunity for commerce. Then it wasn't e-commerce, it was still commerce. He wanted people businesses to be able to move goods from each and every country using rail, because it's one of the cheapest means of transport.
Exactly.
But then when we got the liberation that you are talking about, we put up these borders and even put restrictions on each other. Do you know that I didn't know that you need a visa to move to South Africa from Nigeria?
Yeah.
You need a visa. Yeah, you actually need a visa to go to South Africa from Nigeria. But we are in the same continent. We are residing in the same continent. And also,
you also asked, there's something which annoys me before you mentioned something. It annoys me when you're getting into Zambia. In a fellow African country, our neighbor Zambia, then an immigration officer is asking you, an African, you're being asked, how many days are you going to spend in Zambia? I'm like, am I a thief? I'm in Africa.
I'm in Africa, I'm home.
Imagine I'm at home, and Africa is home. But someone has got the audacity of asking me to say, how many days are you going to spend? Are you on a business? Are you on a business trip, or are you a visitor? If you're in business, to make matters worse, and there's something which actually is boring. When you're a visitor, you're given 90 days.
But if you're going to do
when
business,
you're doing business, you're given 30 days. I'm like, Africans, are we serious? So someone wants to do business.
They're given a shorter space
of time. Someone who wants to visit, you can visit 90 days.
I mean, the logic, maybe, okay, let me try to put myself in the shoes of the immigration department. Maybe say if you're saying you want to do business, I want to assume that they sort of like get scared. What sort of business is this person going to do? Are they going to be taking our resources? So they give you a shorter period to stay in their country so that you
imagine.
And then if you are traveling, maybe they say, maybe you are a tourist, you're going to be spending money in our economy. So let's give you 90 days to spend all of your money.
Do you know what? The immigration officer, sometimes they will trick you and even ask you, are you going to have any business meeting? If you just say yes, you are now on 30 days.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's
so
sad.
They don't even know the concept of, if I'm an African getting into Botswana, getting into Namibia, and I'm saying I'm coming in for business. And there's another thing which actually annoys me also. Do you know that even in this country, even in most of this African country, my heart bleeds when I start talking about that. Because most of the people, they don't know that before I started off being when I was a vendor, or before that, I used to be tied. I used to be touched with the political side of Africa to say, how can we? Do you know that even in this country, we respect foreign investors than local investors?
True.
There are no incentives for local investors.
Yeah.
There are actually restrictions for local investors. But when someone is from Europe, you start to hear about special economic zones. You start hearing about if you're an investor, we're going to give you this, give you that. But is it fair for Africa?
Well, it doesn't really make sense, because we tend to overpraise visitors over our own, and which is one of the reasons why resources have been leaking out of Africa. I think we are stuck in a place where we are suffering from a superiority complex, where we believe that people of color, they are not capable of transforming the narrative and the landscape of Africa in terms of business productivity and industrial revolutions, if you'd like to put it that way. Do you know, one thing that actually fascinates me is that we've got an abundance of flora in Africa. We've got a lot of vegetation. Most of it is herbal, it's medicinal. But this is what we do. We trust a system that was developed and designed by people who don't have vegetation. So what they did is they tried to create replicas of our vegetation in chemicals. And then they gave us in pill form, synthetic medications.
That's the medication.
And we trust it more than our very own vegetation, which they are trying to imitate. So those are some of the conversations that we need to have going on to say, how best can we capitalize on our own resources? There's an issue with Zambia. The former president, they literally sold off the Zambian copper mine for pennies on a dollar. And the company that bought the copper mine was making millions. And guess what they do? They take the raw copper, they spin it into cable, then we buy the cable.
We buy the cable, and it's now 10 times expensive than the copper.
Yes. And also, I don't know why what's the fascination with African leaders? We allow our resources to be externalized, but we don't invite those companies to say, okay, you want to use our copper, fine, we don't have the resources now to manage our own copper. Why don't you set a plant here? Employ our local people.
Exactly.
And maybe if you are scared that, you know, if you don't trust Africans, maybe you can have your management being your natives.
Yeah.
But then the ground workers, they need to be African.
So, like what you're actually saying, it boggles my mind, and it's a subject which I believe is supposed to be discussed without fear, without favor.
That's
even
very true.
in each and every fora, like even from primary school, ECD, to educate our people that yes, we've got resources. The guys are just coming into Zimbabwe, take as much minerals as they can. Even if you're looking at big mining companies, they're taking our gold, they're taking our platinum, they're taking our diamond. Why is that these guys, they don't want to invest in plants in our African countries? Why is that?
And a part of it, to answer you, it has everything to do with the financial system in Africa. I remember watching a short form video of Professor Lumumba, the famous Professor Lumumba.
Lumumba.
He was
the Kenyan.
Yes, he was expressing his disgruntlement in the financial system of Africa and saying, we've got over 55 states in Africa, right? But none of them are able to settle transactions between themselves without involving an international currency.
Exactly.
So we cannot trade with the Zambians using our Zim dollar, and they cannot trade with us using their kwacha. We have to have a
US dollar
mediator between us, but we are in Africa. So as long as we have, if we continue referencing those external services, especially from the Western side, we are continue enslaving ourselves, and we are continue teaching our children to rely on the Western. And another thing, us being in the software business, I've actually realized that the market trusts those imported softwares that are developed in the Western countries.
Even here in Africa, if we just say, I've got my own software, they'll be like, that one will never work.
It will take
a lot of bugs.
It will take an arm and a leg for them to trust your software. To the point where we have even our local authorities outsourcing softwares from outside. And yet we have got a ton of developers that are being churned out by our local universities.
That's true. So it's something, viewers, we need you to be commenting on this. Ask us questions, join the conversation. How are we missing it as Africa? We've got these universities, your HEAT, your University of Zimbabwe, University of Zambia, University of Lagos, bringing brilliant people. Most of our people are now, these are the people who are running Amazon. Those are the people who are running Google. Most of our best engineers are out there. They are performing on the World Forum. But where are we missing it as Africa? We are even restricting our own softwares. Even if you're going to go to, in Zambia, they don't allow you to fiscalize without being approved. Your software is supposed to be approved to be fiscalized with ZRAs, that's the Zambian Revenue Authority. If you're going to check all the softwares which are approved, they are foreign softwares, Palladium, your Palladium, your Pastel, etc. But where is the local Zambian software? Exactly. Where is the Zimbabwean software? If you're going to bring your Zimbabwean software, they are easy to reject it.
True.
So where are we missing it as Zimbabweans? Right now, even our Zimra, I think, is using a software which was imported from America. And to make matters worse, whether we like it or not, sanctions, they do exist.
Yes,
I've encountered them myself. I used to also deny, but I encountered sanctions when I wanted to register with Pastel. Then they said, no,
we are not
as Zimbabweans, we are not going to trade with you because you are actually in the same category with Afghanistan. That's a reality. And we have to face it. And the more the business community is supposed to also know that for sure sanctions, they do exist. So after being hit by sanctions, but the same Zimra is engaging a company in America to supply us with software. What are they going to do to us? Obviously, they've got a control over everything.
They've got control,
I'm
yes.
also shocked. I think this actually goes to even this, our security system as the government. I've noticed that some of the government departments, up to date, they're using Gmail.
Yeah, and it's very
And Gmail
scary. It's American, if ever. And you know what? There's a group of legislators within the American legal system. They call them the congressmen.
Exactly.
I've seen a lot of these big corporates or the CEOs of those big companies in America. They are always at loggerheads with the congressmen over data breaches, the leaking of user data, and so if they can leak information about their own citizens, what more foreigners?
Julian Assange.
And you know, like it's very easy for them to infiltrate our central intelligence services.
Exactly.
Because they rely on an American company to provide a service for what they are deeming encrypted emails, so they could just easily access the emails and get the information
so
that they need.
The issue about Gmail, I'm shocked that how can a government department or a parastatal is still using Gmail?
It's very scary.
Because that data, there's someone who's got control. End of the day, there's someone who can access everything.
Exactly.
Like what is happening with Twitter right now. When Elon Musk purchased Twitter, I think he was starting to give us secrets about what was happening in the health sector, what was happening during COVID. I think there's that doctor, is it Dr. Fauci? That doctor from America was now being interrogated because of the information which was taken from Twitter. So end of the day, there's someone who's got control over everything. There's no secret. And if I'm communicating with you via Twitter, there's someone who's accessing that
information.
Even if I'm communicating with you on WhatsApp, there's someone who's got power to retrieve all that information.
You know, I always laugh at some of the things that happen, and they're small, subtle things, but they speak volumes if you meditate on them. Like, for example, we are talking about Gmail and how they promise you a secure emailing service.
How is it secure?
But then have you noticed that these days, if you look at the top 2 emails in your main Gmail inbox, they're adverts from sites that you visited or products that they... So that means they are in collaboration with marketers.
So how am I safe?
They are giving away your digital profile and those people are giving you targeted adverts in your inbox. So where is the security now?
There's no security.
And also WhatsApp is another platform that tells you about end-to-end encryption. But then I noticed they are recently introducing an adverts feature. So like the adverts, they are not random. They are curated by an algorithm that knows your digital profile and what you do. So I don't see the end-in-end encryption to that anymore. And I think Vusi put it quite clearly and said, you know, when those people build, they build internationally, they build with the international market in mind. But us as Africans, when we start our spaza shop, we want to service the community and end there. Like we want to, like for example, I'll give you our Mawuyu products.
Exactly.
No one is thinking about bridging the global gap in terms of servicing that market with our Mawuyu product. That thing doesn't exist in other countries, but we are very comfortable in, you know, having a product, develop it for the local market. Even the branding, it's just meant for the people. The advertisement, it's appealing to people who are local, but we don't think beyond our borders.
We're waiting for the foreign investor.
Yes, to come and then realize potential in our Mawuyu until they put their English name on the brand and take it out there. We are not willing to do that.
Yeah, so I think we'll discuss about that after the break. So I think you guys stay tuned. We are still here. This is the podcast where we will bring you everything business. We want to talk about, today we're talking about Africa. Why are we still where we are? We're the ones who are producing cotton. We're the ones who are producing almost each and every vital raw material which is there in the world. But where are we missing it is African. Still, we can talk about everything, but we're still here. So join us after the break. I'm Jade. I'm hanging out with Steve. We are here. So join us after the break. Thank you.
Welcome back to your favorite podcast. We are having a conversation around Africa Day since we are celebrating Africa Day as Africans, and would like for you to engage with us on the nuggets that we're sharing in the podcast in the comment section. We'll get to review them and probably give some feedback on the next episode of the podcast. And before we went for the break, we were talking about how we are waiting for a foreign investor. You know, we actually have a fancy name for it, FDA, foreign direct FDI, foreign direct investment.
And when you hear when they're bragging, especially when you hear people like most of our journalists reading news, there were a lot of foreign investors, but we've got plenty of local investors.
Yeah.
Some of our people are very rich. Some of our people have got surplus amounts of cash they're keeping in their houses. I think that can be testified with the amount of robberies which are happening in Zimbabwe. People have got a lot of money, but those people, they don't know where to invest this kind of monies. Why can't we start engaging our local investors and tell them how to invest, teach them how to invest, teach them how to build industries, teach them how to build research companies? You see, Americans are pouring a lot of amounts of money investing into, if you notice, Bill Gates has stopped investing into tech. Right now he's now investing into medical, whereby he's investing into these viruses, making all these kind of researches. Where are we as Africans? 2020, 2021, we failed dismally. I'm actually shy to call myself an African. Not even one African country managed to produce
a single vaccine. And we're waiting for
donations. And we're waiting. They are coming from
foreign
India.
Donors.
They are coming from, and people are now choosing. I want the one from India. I want the one from China.
Where is your own? And you know what? I was more fascinated by the conspiracy theorists who were saying if you get this jab from India, they're saying you last only 5 years and then you die.
And some of them they're saying it's going to affect your protein.
Yeah.
You're not going to have any. I think I still remember one of our good sales guys, very good. We actually say it is a company because we had a lot of COVID cases here, and we ended up saying no. Everyone has to be vaccinated. And I was also vaccinated. Then this guy said, no, I'm never going to be vaccinated. I'm like, why? Then they're saying, it's because I heard that when I'm going to be vaccinated, I'm never going to have a kid. I need a lot of kids. He resigned. So you see our thinking as Africans, we're still way, way, way behind. When we even said COVID was caused because of 5G. How do you link 5G and COVID-19?
I'm so surprised as well. And I'm actually fascinated by the story that you just told about the gentleman who resigned because of conspiracy theories around COVID vaccinations. So if you are willing to, you know how jobs are very difficult to find or come by in Zimbabwe, especially from companies like M&J, which have got a dynamic culture that is a lot of young people, gives them room to grow. How do you quit your job in a situation like that, but not have the audacity to manufacture or invest in local vaccines production?
Yeah, even I think when you're saying something like that, it's I'm thinking that as Africans, I think the first thing is to accept ourselves. We've denied ourselves for a long period of time. That's why you notice that even Dr. Guramatunu, shout out to Dr. Guramatunu, is advocating for even our women not to wear those braids. He's saying there are a lot of chemicals, etc. You're getting hair which you don't even know where it's coming from, because he's advocating for, we are beautiful as Africans. We are okay as Africans. As dark as I am, I'm good. If you notice, beauty is linked. There's actually an app which was developed specifically for Africans. That one which makes people lighter when they're actually dark in complexion. I think most of the people now, our young guys, even we are not yet married. They're thinking that they're dating a light-skinned lady. But in actual fact, these people are dark because of what they... So an app has been designed specifically for us because we've denied ourselves and we don't want to call where everything in Africa, it seems bad. everything in Africa. Because I don't know, when they said black magic, black what? Black is associated with something evil. I don't know who crafted that. Where did it emanate from? I don't know. So I think it's about accepting ourselves. Like what you're saying about medicine. My mother, she suffers from blood pressure, you know, when you're old. At one point I was saying, Mom, just to take those avocado leaves, boil them, drink them.
the water.
Your blood pressure, to normalize your blood pressure. Then she said, no, I'm now a Christian. I don't drink herbs. I'll only get my pills. So you see now where it's actually emanating from. I think there's an article which actually says, there's a guy, I'm now forgetting, around 1800s. He actually said, I visited the whole of Africa. These guys, they are united. And what unites them is their culture. What unites them is the way they behave. So if you really want to colonize Africa, the first thing, I think that was 1890, before Rhodes came into South Africa, before Zimbabwe was colonized, South Africa was colonized, he said, if we're going to take their culture and take the food they are eating, if we're going to take whatever they are doing and give them ours and show them that our way of doing things. You notice, if ever notice diet, when a white man or when the guys from Europe they're eating healthy food. If you're going to talk of our grandfathers, when they're eating, they were eating our traditional foods, which is the same food the white man is also eating. But because we're told that no, you must eat rice, you must be eating, we're now eating these foods which are not even healthy, and we're destroying ourselves. Life expectancy in Zimbabwe, as we speak, I think is 37. So imagine. But life expectancy in Japan, it's 90.
Wow.
Because Japan, nothing was ever tampered with in terms of their culture.
They are very conservative.
The way they eat, the way they exercise, their culture is still intact. Look at the Chinese, their culture is still intact. Look at the Indians, their culture is still intact. Our culture, we don't, even Africa Day, there's Africa Day today. Kids tomorrow are going to be called, wear your Zimbabwean dress. What my kid was asking me, my teacher said I must wear Zambian dress. What are they going to wear?
Because our culture has been diluted.
Zimbabwean. Which one is our Zimbabwean?
We've lost a sense of identity of ourselves, to the point where, you know, the first lady is trying to resuscitate the Zimbabwean culture. So they introduced a Zimbabwean print. Like
exactly, that is a noble.
Yeah,
shout out to the first lady. That's a noble idea.
But before, if she hadn't done that, we're still stuck in confusion.
Even when she did that, pictures which are circulating on social media, were even laughing to say, that one we cannot dress like that. But that's us.
That's us, very true.
If we don't have identity, it's going to affect our economy. It's going to affect even the spiritual, because we've been destroyed spiritually. So that's how it's easy. We are not even creative. We are now dependable on whatever is happening. For a latest car, we're depending on Germany, which Mercedes-Benz are they going to launch. In America, for a phone, we're depending on iPhone. So does it mean that we don't have people who can think like Steve Jobs?
Like you are saying, the self-denial has made us to develop a low self-esteem as a people, because we are trying to compete or compare ourselves to a first world country, but they also went different stages that we are probably going through now before they got there. So we need to be comfortable in our mistakes. We need to be comfortable with our wounds, with our flaws, and ensure that we heal from the past. And then we advance into the future, taking baby steps which are defined by us as Africans. We should not let people who have advanced through history, because they obtained civilization faster, and the reason why we had a slower civilization is because after they were civilized, they came and oppressed us from being like them. So we need to be comfortable taking baby steps developing our own civilization, determining our pace and our culture as Africans. I'm sure if we do that, we'll be on a good road to recovery. Like, for example, we have our corporate culture detected by the Western.
Exactly.
If you try to look
8 to 5.
Yeah.
Work 8 to 5. But as Africans,
we need to develop our own sense of
and even
corporate
holidays.
culture. Yeah.
Holidays. Most of our holidays are like Christmas Day is going to be 2 days. Who gave us that? Who is giving us those kind of holidays in Africa?
Now.
So if we're not going to change as Africans, I like what Dumisani Ngube, my brother from Zambia, what he usually say. He says Africa must think. I think when you're saying Professor Paul Lumumba is also advocating for a united Africa, whereby we remove all these borders, whereby Africa we can trade. When I'm in Zimbabwe, I'm supposed to be in a village. I'm supposed to when I want to go to Togo, there are no restrictions. I'm supposed to visit Togo. They are my brothers, they are my sisters. Look at what Africa is today. Right now we're even being forced to speak in English because we've got audience in these African countries. Because we've got 1,500 languages in Africa, more than. Yeah. Why can't we just say Swahili is now our what? Our official African language? Because most of the countries are speaking in Swahili. Why can't we take it as Swahili? Then that's our language. Look at the countries which are developed. They use their own languages. I'm emotional when I'm talking about this because it hates so much when we are as Africans, we are not human. That's why when we are abused, Africans are always, we are being abused left, right, and center. People, they can say yes, racism has stopped, but it's there every day. Racism is happening because why? Africans, we don't have anything which we can proud ourselves to say we've developed this, but we've created our likes of Great Zimbabwe. Africans from scratch, we created Great Zimbabwe. So if we could create something like Great Zimbabwe, does it mean that we cannot create our own vehicle, our own brand, our own material? Even toothpicks are still being imported. That hates. So as Africans, guys, we really need to wake up. Africa must think indeed.
Right, and you are right about Africans having to think. So do let us know in the comment section what we need to think about, or what the conversation needs to be as Africans. And if your comment is interesting enough, I'm sure we can invite you over on one of these episodes so that we can share deeper sentiments on why you think we need to be addressing an issue that you have dropped down in the comment section. Otherwise, from me to you, we'll see you on the next episode. Remember to subscribe, share, and like the link, and also follow us on our social media platforms for more engaging content.